Howdy folks. I was carving my name in a tree and I came across this carving amp that was fried. And Sugar's really excited about it. I can hear her in the background. And I decided to convert it to a 48 Woody Deluxe, which is going to be the name of my next band, Woody Deluxe. Anyways, I'm going to show you how I did this. I'm going to do a sound demo at the end of this. So, yeah. Alrighty. You know, I liked my my Model 26 Deluxe that I made several months back, or maybe years, who knows. It's a blur after a while. And I've got this opportunity, which I will show you, of repurposing an amp. So I'm going to throw together a Model 26 Deluxe clone. Not the Woody, although I sure like the name of that amp and I'd love to have one, and maybe someday. But right now I've got a chassis and a cabinet that are just screaming to be converted into a Model Deluxe. Sorry, a Model 26 Deluxe. Also, Robinette, bless his heart, came up with this really nice layout, which I'm going to sort of follow, but I'm going to be more point to point than having the terminal board due to the way this chassis, which I'm going to show you in a little bit, has been laid out. So if that titillates your sensibilities, then stay tuned. Alrighty, got the transformers mounted. Very nice. And I did a dry fit. Doesn't interfere with the speakers. The tube is super freaking close, but hey! And this is a 5Y3, by the way. It's just for demo. And there will be no Coke bottle 6V6s or 6SC7s. I don't know if they made a Coke bottle one. I think they just made the metal ones, which is what I'm going to use. 6V6's got a nice amount of room. 5Y3, everything fits in there. No interference with the speaker. For a vertical mount. Alrighty, sounds kind of kinky, but hey. Okay, here's the chassis with all the holes drilled for the components. And here's my nice brushed aluminum plate that I made to cover the former holes. And I'm going to just mount the components in there and continue on. Moving along. Alright. Well, this power transformer I got in here is just not going to work. It's just putting out, it's just too wimpy. It's just not putting out what I had hoped. So I'm going to go ahead and rip it out of there. I got this other one right here, you know, that allegedly puts out, it's for a 5Y3. It's going to put out, not under load, of course. It's 440 volts. I already measured it. That's going to definitely be better. So I'm going to rip that other one out and put this one in. Okay, so with a minimum of fuss, I wired in another power transformer from my stash. A little bit unorthodox, but I think it is going to be just fine. And here it is all wired up, ready to test. The wires look a good bit stouter than the other ones, so I'm kind of, well, I'm glad I made this switch here. So now I'm going to measure all the AC voltages, make sure everything's hooked up correctly. Okay, here we go. Got it plugged into my current limiter and my variac. Turn that on and just keep an eye on the pilot light as I gently, slowly turn this up. And pilot light's glowing, that's good. Got it up to a full 117 thereabouts, and no smoke, no glow from my bulb. So it looks good. I'm just going to measure them and see what they're all measuring at. Okay, all the AC voltages look good. And I'm just waiting on the UPS to get me some filter caps, and then I'm going to continue on. I'm going to start wiring in the preamp section, working my way over, I suppose. Alrighty then. Looking good so far. Alrighty, these just came by UPS 3 or 4 days early. Yay! Nice job, Mojo Tone. Alright, now I got some little terminal strips here to assist in my filtration circuit for my B+, etc., etc. I got them nicely locked down, kind of like the population was. You know, it occurred to me, the word lockdown, it's usually, up until 2020, it was used exclusively, well, I don't know about exclusive, but it was used to describe something that happened in prison. Anyways, there it is. It's looking good, man. This is going to be, I'm getting excited about this. For those of you that have not watched any of my videos, and this is your first time, let me re-illustrate my pet peeve. So, when you're making a solder connection, make it so that it's going to work without solder. In other words, you make a real nice mechanical connection. Really nice mechanical connection there. See? There and there. I mean, this would work. It might be a little intermittent, but it's going to work without solder. And when you're soldering, heat up the component. Don't just drizzle solder over the top of it. Let the component melt the solder. Don't drizzle solder over the top of it. This is how you try to avoid cold solder joints. Like that. All right then. Alrighty. I got the B+ wired up all the way to what is sometimes known as B+3. So you got your B+ develops off the rectifier here. You got your voltage dropping there. You got more filtration. Another voltage drop going to voltage, B+3, which then goes on to light up the phase inverter, etc., etc., etc. And yeah, I'm going to get rid of this right now. This is no longer applicable. I don't want anybody thinking Crate did anything this cool, so I'm getting rid of that right now. So I got this fired up.
just to test the B plus so far. And when I go right here, 308 volts, nice, to the second B plus, it's dropping down to 305. We will see. And then the third node is 304. I may have to up the voltage dropping resistors, but for right now, I bet it's going to sound good. Now's a good time to shut everything off and go ahead and discharge those caps, because look it, when I put it right here right now, look at that. It's still at 288. It's dropping slowly, but that would really wake you up better than Folgers. So I'm going to go ahead and discharge that. And for those of you watching the first time, here's how you discharge it. You take a screwdriver and sharpen it into a weapon, put a nice resistor there and wrap it all in tape. Ground one end to the screwdriver and one end to the wire here that goes to an alligator clip, and you go ahead and touch that right on there on each one of those. And as my mentor Uncle Doug would say, the last thing you want to do is die. Pretty zen statement. Now that I've discharged it, take a look at what it's what kind of punch it's packing now. Hang on a second. Wow. See, now it's at 2 volts. That I can handle. 3 volts. It's still building power up even though it's unplugged. Because the rectifier is still in there and it's doing its thing even though it's off. So I go ahead and discharge it even more right to the chassis just to make sure. Yes, sir. 0.2 volts. That I can definitely handle. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and pull the rectifier out and proceed on. I haven't counted recently how many amp builds I've done. I think it's about, geez, I don't know, 15 maybe. I lost count. But I'll tell you, on every one where I had problems with the amp build, I'd say 99% of the time, the problems I developed in getting it fired up the first time was wiring errors. So yeah, I didn't wire in the output transformer, so I, pardon the pun, rectified that mistake. And when you're testing, if you're doing like I do where you're kind of testing as you go, so I just tested the B plus to make sure this all was working. You know, instead of just building the whole thing and then fastening your seatbelt and hoping everything works. Now I know this works. When you're testing, be aware, these little suckers right here, make sure they're not touching anything like your skin, because these charge up also. These are going to the power tubes. Alright, and they do charge up. They're hooked right up to that first B plus. Alright, again, the last thing you want to do is die. Okay, rant over. As long as I'm ranting, I'd like to take the time to thank my amp guru, Bill Odell, for this beautiful gift. A Fluke multimeter. I love it. And also, I want to say in memory of Mark Piette, who I learned just passed away about a month ago, and he was one of the guys responsible for my early interest in this craziness. So Mark, we love you, man. We miss you. Alrighty. Moving along here. I was looking at this schematic and I remembered from my original one that this tone control did not work. And I don't know if I was having some other troubles, but it seemed like as soon as I put the lifted a tone control from Princeton, late 50s Princeton, and put it in there, that everything started working better. So I'm going to ignore this and put in a proper, I don't know, proper working, known working tone control, because I don't know, maybe this works, but I wasn't crazy about it, and it seemed to be not working right. Oh well, onward here. Another thing that I do, I don't know if a lot of people do it, but I try to get resistors as close to the schematic as possible. So I wade through a bunch until I find one that's well below the 10% tolerance that they allow. So I do go through and kind of try to blueprint the schematic as best I can, meaning I get as close to possible on the values. Everybody does it slightly different. Here's how I do my cathode bypass caps. Just like that. What the heck? The sweetheart of the blues just checked in, and she was even politely squealing over what I've done so far. Yeah, baby. I'm digging it. This is a nice one. And we're making some progress here on the first tube. First tube's done. Yeah, there's looking good. First tube's done. More progress. I'm out of the preamp and into the power tube section here. Finish the phase inverter onto the two power tubes. Okay, if there's wiring errors, I'm sure that my viewers out there are going to see this. I've done as close as I can for being what I am. Those are the speaker wires, sorry, the output transformer secondary, and I got the output primaries hooked up, just tacked on there, so that when I get the squealing, if I do, I can switch them. And now all I got to do is the heater wires and fire it up. Okay, looks like, to my knowledge, I've got all the wires wired up correctly. So now I'm going to just plug it in with no tubes in it and measure my 6 volts, measure all the voltage at the rectifier pins, and the 6 volt all the way to the end there. Make sure all my voltages are working for my AC voltage. Okay, I got it fired up, and I got 3-point-something volts each on the green wires at the very end, and I got 5 volts and almost 300 over here. So now I'm going to hunt down, put my rectifier tube in and plug it in. Okay, I got the rectum fryer tube plugged in, and now I'm going to measure the B plus to all the different points. Made it easy because it's red wire. Alright, measuring B plus now. Okay, my high voltage DC seems pretty good everywhere. I'm going to hunt down some tubes and alligator clip a speaker up there in my signal generator and see which way is where. Okay, I've got the my signal generator plugged in, and I've got the speaker wire hot wired plugged into my current limiter. I'm going to fire it up now. Here we go. I'm going to turn the voltage up gradually, looking for my glow, and I'm going to crank it up about 117. No glow from my current limiter. Whoop. Whoa. Got a nice strong signal. Tone control seems to be working. Wow. Success at the first attempt. Sounds nice. I'm going to plug a guitar in, hear what it sounds like. Okay, so I've been horsing around with the bias here because it was super low. The output of the tubes was only about 3 watts a piece. So I clipped in smaller and smaller bias resistors here. So I got down to 1 ohm, or 5 ohms roughly, and it's still it's a little bit low, about 5-6 watts. So then I've clipped in some lowered the resistance here on the B plus, and now I've got it up to 7.4 watts. So yeah, so I think because I have a lower output power transformer, I believe what I'm going to do is I'm going to put, instead of 22K here, I'm going to put 2 10Ks, and then I'll be able to put a 5 or 10 ohm resistor here and have a nice output of about 7 watts thereabouts per tube. Alright, so I'm going to do all that and see how that sounds. I bet you it's going to sound better. Onward. This seems to be pretty acceptable right here. I reduced the resistors value in the filter section quite a bit, down to 1K, and then I got a 10 ohm on the resistor on the cathode bias, and this seems to be compensating for the lower voltage transformer that you know, that I have. And I'm putting out a nice 8 watts with a 52 milliamp on these really nicely matched 6v6s. I'm gonna plug a guitar into this, but this seems to be running nice the way it is right now. It's got a pretty low plate voltage there, but I bet it's gonna sound good. It's putting out almost 9 watts per tube, which is really what I'm shooting for. So I'm sure there's some real gurus out there that are going to say that I did this all wrong. But, you know, I don't know what I'm doing, but at least I didn't electrocute myself yet. And let's plug the guitar in, see what it sounds like. So this is the carven cabinet that I'm going to be carving my name into.
here that this thing's going into. It's kind of a strange design. It's not a Fender, but I am using Fender washers. Nice little cabinet. No, not a huge fan of this Celestian, but at some point I'll run into something better. But for right now, it works okay. So I was playing it, and it sounded a little ratty. You know, the transformer just isn't, you know, it's okay. I'm settling on this. I'm gonna try this. I think I had a little bit too much or not enough resistance on the cathode bias. The schematic calls for 250. I got it at about 150, and I lowered the power supply resistors quite a bit. So I think this is going to be, I don't want it real ratty and dirty. I can always go back and change it, but you know, 7 watts per tube. You know, that moving, that jumping around, you know, I'm not sure if that's the bias meter or what. Probably is. I've seen these things malfunction before. This one's on borrowed time. But what the heck, I've seen a bunch of these malfunction, so I'm using it while I can. Feast your eyes on that. This is my war horse. My 62 Strat. Been all over the world with me. And I'm going to use it to demo out. That'll buff out. To demo this amp. Yeah, I know, I got fluorescent lights overhead. The amp's up about halfway. Tone is all the way up. Pretty cool. Here's a little. Well, I think that's all the sound checking my wife's going to let me get away with for today. Yours truly, L.A. of the family Jones, living near St. Louis. in a landmass commonly known as Missouri. And hope you enjoyed this video. Go ahead and come on out and see us sometime play. It's L.A. Jones Blues Tet or Adrianna Marie and the Groove Cutters. And yeah, hope to see you down the road a piece. Thanks for watching. Hope this helps.